Rock hit me with that first chair shot. It felt like lightning bolts went all the way down to my feet. It hurt so badly that by the time I took 5 shots, I was still inside the ring. Bam, bam, bam. And it was sickening. My kids were in the front row. And when we finally got to the place where Rock knocked me out, it was 11 chair shots. And that last one to the head is just brutal. I will not say those words, you twit. I will not say, I quit, I quit.
There are no fresh questions about Hell in a Cell, so obviously we know how much that impacted you, how much you went through. But then by the next year at the Royal Rumble, there's the I Quit match with you and Rock. And I kind of wanted to ask, going into it, what was the plan? And coming out of it, when it kind of went a bit overboard, you've got to deal with your family who are there. You've got to deal with the fact that not only was it on pay-per-view, but it's being filmed for a movie. How do you kind of come to terms with how carried away it got?
It did get carried away. My main goal, and when I talked to Rock, and we all knew that it was him and Steve, right? Like, my feeling is I need to get Rock as ready as he could possibly be. Now, if he was exactly the same guy as he was when we began our feud and he faced Steve, it still would have been great. But I thought the one thing Rock needed was a killer instinct, because he was so entertaining that it was difficult to boo him, right? He was funny, and he was charismatic, right? He had the great looks and the body. And so I set that whole idea up with the handcuffs in order for Rock to display a really angry side. And I wrote about it in Foley is Good. I said, normally the best matches take place, or sometimes the best matches take place when the two performers are so into the moment that they become the character. And then I said, in retrospect, maybe the best time for the two performers to become the character is not when one of them has his hands cupped behind his back and the other one is wielding a chair that he's supposed to hit me with 5 times. The problem was, if you think about it, and think about your hands being behind your back, it's a stress position, and your body loses all ability it has to give with the blow, which doesn't mean taking a chair shot is anything but painful if your hands aren't cupped behind your back. But when Rock hit me with that first chair shot, it felt like lightning bolts went down both legs all the way down to my feet. And my feeling was, I can't believe how much that hurt. And it hurt so badly that by the time I took 5 shots, I was still inside the ring. And the crazy thing is, on the third one, I got up like I was going to mount some offense, like to make a charge from it. It was a bam, bam, bam. And it was sickening. My kids were in the front row. I thought the issue was, originally the idea was I was going to look at my family and the kids were going to be crying, which is inhumane as a dad to do to your children. But the reason I thought it wouldn't work is because I told my kids over and over that Daddy never gets hurt. And even Rock talked to them. And I said, Rock's dad's friend, right? And Rock was my son Dewey's favorite wrestler, which didn't hurt me at all. I got through it eventually. And he talked to my children, and I thought it's a good thing they're not showing them, because they're not going to be upset. And they were upset. And when we finally got to the place where Rock knocked me out, it was 11 chair shots. And that last one to the head is just brutal. But the crazy thing is, you show it to a wrestling cynic and they'll swear he didn't hit me. And I'm like, you need to take a look at the chair in WWE Warehouse. It's like, there's blood on it and hair on it to this day. And, we did that ending where people still come up and say, did you really say I quit? And it was a recording from earlier in the day where I was like borrowing the green eggs and ham from Dr. Seuss. I will not say those words, you twit. I will not say, I quit, I quit, I quit. And so when Rock put the microphone in front of my face, even though I was, unconscious in a sense, the fans heard that, I quit, I quit, I quit. And they were stunned because they didn't think that mankind would say that. And I didn't realize how over the edge it had been until I watched it when Barry Blaustein showed it to me. and it was heavy. And if you watch Beyond the Mat, it was like, oh, I feel like a bad father, and I've never felt that way before. And I think the strangest thing of all was I didn't think anything of a doctor sewing me up while my kids were around. And there's that great line my daughter has. She goes, Daddy, do you have a boo-boo? I said, yes, honey, Dad's got a boo-boo, a small boo-boo. And she said, Daddy, that looks like a big boo-boo. And I said, it is, honey, it is. And then my wife was so poor at driving in the Los Angeles traffic that she pulled over, and I drove the rest of the way to the airport.
Just out of curiosity, when that happens, you take the 11 share shots. How long did it take you to sort of feel normal again after that?
You know, I felt good enough to drive, right? I still had an adrenaline surge, and then there was the little bit of the fallout where I was like, wow, Rock didn't really come back and talk to me very long. And I was like, ooh, this is good for a heel turn, right? The mature thing would be to come up and say to your friend, hey, Dwayne, I'm a little hurt by the fact you didn't come out. And so anyway, I held on to that feeling. Instead of just realizing I could pretend to be mad, right? Like, I'm good enough to pretend I'm mad. I have to have something real to hold on to. And eventually, somebody asked me in Liverpool, they asked me in Boston, where I was doing the 40 years of a Foley tour. And it was not a once-in-a-lifetime scenario, but in the front row, the front table is John Cena's father, Cena Sr., and Rock's brother-in-law, right? So I'm not a big enough star for John Cena or The Rock to attend. But I am big enough for John Cena Sr. and The Rock's brother-in-law. And the question from an audience member was, is it true you and Rock had hard feelings? And I was like, well, a long time ago, but here's the thing. We're both adults. And we talked it over, we hugged it out, and we became better friends than ever. So to this day, I'd say Rock loves me, right? Like he and I we don't keep in touch much, but what he does, he's big on the voice message. And so, I'm going to go off on a Christmas tangent if I can. Is that okay? You guys don't mind a little tangent, right? This is my favorite Rock moment, is that he always loved, you guys understand that one man can't circumnavigate the globe in a single evening and write the letters and do the videos, right? Work with me here. So I would send out these videos, and up until 2022, they were just on a single tripod, and it was 2.5 minutes long. And Rock loved the video. So the next year I said, is there anything specific you want me to touch on? And he sends back a 7.5-minute voice message with real issues. Jazzy was not sharing her toys with Tia. And he gave me a line where he said, I want you to say, it's nice to be important, but it's even more important to be nice. And after that, I called my social media guy, who's a really talented editor. I said, we need lighting, we need editing, we need music. And despite my reputation for being thrifty, which is well-deserved, I'll drop a couple $1,000s to send out good Santa videos. I covered everything The Rock asked. It was 4.5 minutes long. Do the math here. 4.5 minutes long. I send it out to him, and 10 minutes later, he responds with a 3.5-minute voice message, which meant he had to have done it within 90 seconds of watching the video. And it was just such a nice video. It was so nice that I said, kids, play this for Mom. And if you ask me my favorite Rock memory, it's this. I looked through, the door was open about 18 inches, and I looked through that doorway, and I see my 2 younger boys and my wife huddled around the iPhone as if they're a family from the early 1930s, like listening to an old Victrola radio. And it just made my heart really warm. So I'm happy to say, sometimes the bumps in the road are good for the journey, right? And that was a little bump in the road, and it's been smooth sailing ever since. To the point, just one more Rock thing, is Brian Gewirtz got in touch with me. Brian was lead writer of Raw for many years, and now he heads up 7 Bucks Productions for The Rock. He's a big player, in the movie world. And he said, Mick, DJ would really like you to watch this episode of Young Rock. He really thinks you'll enjoy it. And I don't know if you saw the one. it's literally based on a conversation I had with The Rock in the back of a car when we were both going for our photo shoot for TV Guide, which at the time was like one of the biggest magazines in all the U.S. And I talked to him about Christmas and why it was so important to him. And it's almost like word for word. He remembered it, and I was the guy who put the spirit of Christmas into The Rock. I was watching it in a hotel room, and I had to help stop myself from crying because it was such a beautiful. And the actor, he didn't look like me, he didn't sound like me, and he was quite a bit shorter than I am, which meant he was about the height that you think I am. But he captured the spirit, and I was so grateful that he thought that highly and remembered that conversation so thoroughly that he brought it to life on his own TV show. Thank you.